And now welcome, boys and girls, to the top 10 Zelda games! The Zelda series is fantastic. Some of the finest set of adventure games of all time. Almost every game as good as every other game, regardless of what system they come out on. A series that has tapped into every Nintendo game system minus the Virtual Boy, even making an appearance on the Philips CDI. But we don't talk about those games. But after 25 years of Zelda, most people have come to figure their favorites, and that's what I am here to do for you today. This is the top 10 countdown of the green cap wearing hero of time. Number 10. Number 10 on my list is kind of a downer. I really wanted to put it up higher on the list because it is the original, but number 10 on my list is the original Zelda game, not because it's bad, not because it's not as good as the others, just because in my personal opinion it is not a game I really like playing over again, just because it's so complex and there's so many secrets in the game that it loses all replayability for me because I typically forget what I'm actually doing in the game. Like, I forget, oh, what tree am I supposed to burn down? What rock am I supposed to bomb? And for me personally, it kind of ruins the game, especially now when you have to look stuff up. I mean, back then I'd understand, like, you had one game and this game was going to last you, it would be the original Zelda because there was so much secret stuff. But for me personally, I want a game that I can just play through and not have to look anything up and just do my best to figure it out. But for that game, even though it really did set the precedent for what the NES was and what Nintendo was and what kind of games they were going to make and what kind of series Zelda was going to be, it just does not translate nearly as well as it used to. So unfortunately, I feel like a jerk even putting this at number 10. Number 10 is the original Zelda game. Everyone should at least try it once. Everyone should try it once. It's classic gaming at its finest. Number 9. For me, the Zelda games released for handhelds were some of the best, but number 9 had a few kinks, but overall it was a very interesting concept. The sequel to Wind Waker came the DS game Phantom Hourglass. The game was interesting to say the least. It also added one of my favorite characters in the Zelda franchise, the cowardly Captain Linebeck, whose dialogue and actions kept me laughing throughout the game. My biggest issue with this game comes from the control scheme. I personally could not stand the constant use of the touchscreen. As much as I like the integration of hardware and software Nintendo's known for, the use of only a touchscreen felt very unnatural and unusual to a Zelda game. But with great puzzles and fantastic graphics for the DS, it was still a really good game. But the touchscreen moves it up a bit on the list. Number 8. Number 8 is simple. It's number 9 improved. Somewhat. Number 8 is Spirit Tracks. Better puzzles, better graphics, and a new mode of transportation. Trains! And I like trains. It also had some very cool ideas with Zelda accompanying you in a giant suit of armor. But once again, for me, this game lost its luster with the touch-based controls. Sorry guys. Number 7. Number 7 was Nintendo's attempt to make Zelda darker, which for me was unwanted because I felt they had already done this in a much more subtle way in previous games. But Twilight Princess tried so hard to be dark it turned me off to the game. But the graphic style, character-driven plots, and items really made me enjoy the game as a whole. The wolf play was interesting and fun, but at times for me would come a bit tedious and repetitive. Plus then, I didn't like the motion controls on the Wii, and much preferred the game on the GameCube. But these are a few minor complaints in an otherwise great Zelda game. Number 6. I know I'm going to get some flack for this, but number 6 on my list is A Link to the Past. For some people, this is the favorite, but for me, it's simply a great game in a line of great games. A long game with plenty to do, A Link to the Past sets the tone for putting puzzles into an action game. But what really makes the puzzles interesting in the game is that unlike Ocarina of Time, the answer to the temples are much more complicated than just using whatever item you got to solve all your problems. Not saying that makes Ocarina bad, but the puzzles in Link to the Past are just so good. And like with most of these games, Link to the Past has some fantastic music. Also, the game has one of the most memorable overworlds in any Zelda game. I really don't have a specific reason for it not being higher on the list, or I should say lower, I guess, but for me it just never really sticks out as my favorite game. It might be because I didn't play it as much as the others, or because it's just never really been a game I returned to. But it overall is a great game, and I could totally see why it would be someone's favorite. Number 5. The last few years on the Nintendo Wii have been pretty great, with games like Kirby's Return to Dreamland, Rhythm Heaven Fever, Super Mario Galaxy 2, and our number 5. Skyward Sword was one of the biggest steps the Zelda franchise has taken since Ocarina of Time. Whether or not it was a step in the right direction is merely for you to decide for yourself, but for me, it was a step forward, but mostly to the side. Adding an unbelievable art design with, in my opinion, fantastic motion controls, this game is very unique. Add one of the most involved stories in the series with some RPG elements, and you get one hell of a game. Why is it only number 5, you ask? Although I loved the motion controls and really thought they worked well, I didn't always love the motion controls. Most times, I just wanted to be able to sit down and just get into the game, but the constant hack and slashing really took me out of it, especially when the game didn't recognize a certain style of slash. Number 4. As I mentioned earlier, the Zelda franchise has been great on almost every system, and both my number 4 and 3 were released on handheld systems. Number 4 is Link's Awakening, or as it was in later release, Link's Awakening DX, the colorized version. Both pretty much the same game, but they were so good! With cameo appearances from several other Nintendo characters like Chain Chomps, Goombas, Piranha Plants, and even Kirby. The gameplay was top-notch, especially for a Game Boy game. With some of the best puzzles and story sets, this game was made fantastic. In my opinion, it set up the series' future better than A Link to the Past, given the various retrieval missions and general RPG moments in the game. If you really want to hear me gloat more about this game, I did a review on Ninbuzz on it about a year ago. Click here to check it out. Number 3. My number 3 is actually 2 games, but they go together. Oracle of Ages and Seasons are probably my favorite Zelda games to replay, simply because they are so deep, involved, and the games themselves are intertwined in the perfect way. They were released at the same time, and unlike Pokemon Red and Blue, were actually very different games, each with their own story, characters, and objectives. The games had puzzles, interesting NPCs, and of course a fat flying bear, kangaroo with boxing gloves, and a Dodongo you could befriend! In my opinion, 2 of the most interesting games in the series. Now I am sure you could all figure out the top 2, but we are going to wait until next week to talk about them. But seriously, these 2 games deserve their own videos. Hope you enjoy. Please feel free to comment your favorites below. Like this video and favorite this video, and be sure to share it with someone. Because, you know, a lot of people like Zelda. Someone else might want to see it. You can either check out my last top 10, the top 10 Pokemon, or my Mario Kart vs. Diddy Kong Racing video by clicking any of the annotations on the screen. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.